My name is Aymara Lucero, and today's topic of discussion will be positive and Buddhist psychology applied. How do both of these theories address children who have either grown up in orphanages or have unhealthy parents? And how does that affect their development after? Now, development in unhealthy homes doesn't necessarily assure that the child will be a product of this environment and that they will have neurotic tendencies, but both of these perspectives do say that circumstances propose obvious conflicts. Now, it is essential to know that positive first experiences shape development. And the Dalai Lama really tried to transfer this through when he said that compassion, even the act of giving birth from mother to child, is a key trait for healthy development. And once this bond forms, it's going to determine what kind of attachment the caregiver is going to have to the infant. And this is essential for life development. Now, Buddhism really focuses on collectivism, which means that not one individual is independent from another individual. Therefore, if the parent does, or the caregiver does have really destructive tendencies, then this is going to be absorbed by the child. Now, both of these theories are dominated by positivity. In a biological sense, positive psychology dictates that if there is optimism and internal locus of control at a high level as far as genetic traits, then the child is going to inherit these. Moreover, if there is low neuroticism and a high extroversion, then this will mean that the child will most likely be able to overcome toxic environments rather than sink within them. Now, in the Buddhism theory, early experiences shape brain development. This is really important because if there is early experiences of mostly trauma and abuse, then the brain is going to develop in this negative manner. But this is why they do stress on the initial attachment, because children with destructive caretakers are likely to be victims. Not to say that children in orphanages that grow up in a foster home won't be able to form bonds that are loving, but it is not a stable environment to grow up in. If you were to employ both of these theories within therapy, in positive psychology, you would mainly focus on positive reframing. Why? Because positive reframing really restructures the point of view from the person. So you want to shift from a negative to a positive towards past life events, but most importantly, towards future life events. Now, it is really important to also have a high level of resiliency, because if somebody grew up in a really unstable environment, you want them to be able to bounce back and move on and not stay stuck in that negative type of situation, because then it's going to conflict with their future events. Now, in contrary to traditional psychotherapies, positive psychology really focuses on strengths rather than being problem focused. Why? Because if somebody is really unstable and vulnerable, you don't want to focus on their weaknesses. You want to start off by focusing on their strengths and developing those to make them a stronger person. And my last point would be forgiveness. And forgiveness is really big in Buddhism and in positive psychology because it's going to help reconstruct relationships that were broken ones. It's going to help a person move on from hostility, and it is going to help them gain closure. So you want to gain forgiveness within your patient. The main goal of positive psychology is optimism for the past, present, and future life events. As far as incorporating Buddhism, you really want to focus on the main conflict, which is the end of suffering. And suffering arises from improper attachments or self-centered cravings. So a way to diminish that would be by employing detachment. And you want to detach from negative situations, from negative thoughts, negative attitudes, like possessiveness over people, And another thing that you would want to exercise would be rising feelings to consciousness. Why? Because once somebody is able to get suppressed painful emotions and rise them to consciousness, now they're at a level where they can look at them in a subjective manner, deal with them, and hopefully be able to detach from them. And this will make them healthier and stronger. Now, meditation and all types of meditation are essential because they are the way to employ all of these points that we already spoke of. When you employ meditation, you're able to manipulate as you go higher in levels, you're able to manipulate your suffering. Now, the second subject we're going to discuss is the Dalai Lama's speech, his main points, and how they relate to other theories we have already learned. Now, one of his main points, as we already discussed, is infant attachment, and this is really reminiscent of Erikson and the psychosocial development. The trust versus mistrust stage, specifically the first one, because this is when the food, stimulation, and love provided by the caregiver form mutuality. So when you form mutuality, the infant will be able to be confident in trusting oneself and trusting the adult. This will also form ego strength. And you need ego strength for later stages in life. Now, it also reminds us of Freud's psychosexual oral stage because feeding is the first form of care we get, and it's how we meet all our needs. And that is when the main attachment forms with the caregiver. The difference with psychoanalysis, though, is that the fixation and the stage, the outcome that it has, is different from the other theories. Now, the next two are very similar. There's the attachment styles of the relational approach by Ainsworth. And a healthy attachment is a secure attachment. And this causes future healthy relationships in adulthood. On the contrary, an unhealthy attachment would cause either an avoidance style or an anxious ambivalent style, which will have a consequence of unhealthy adult relationships. And then there's Horney's interpersonal orientations, in which you want a balance of all three orientations for it to be healthy. But if there's a dominance, or if either the self-effacing, the expansive, or the resignation solution, then you're going to have an unhealthy attachment. Then, as we mentioned, the Dalai Lama did focus on compassion as the main trait for a healthy attachment and a healthy development. This is really reminiscent of trait theories, especially Catel's theory, because he says that heredity affects many of the key personal traits, especially temperamental traits. One difference is that Buddhism really focuses on compassion as a crucial trait. But although compassion is necessary to form any sort of healthy development, it's not set as a specific trait necessary in the other theories for a healthy development. Last but not least, the Dalai Lama did discuss that when you have suppressed emotions, since mind and body are symbiotic, you will manifest them physically. So an unhealthy mind is going to manifest unhealthy physical symptoms. This is really similar to psychosomatic symptoms and illnesses, as well as Freud's conversion in Syria, where there is many unconscious conflicts, and the only way that the person knows how to manifest them is either through physical symptoms, just as paralysis, tics, and blindness. And with that, we're going to conclude our presentation today. Thank you for listening.